Well, hello and welcome back to the Village Online. We are glad to have you with us for another interview, the second half really, of Matt Neylon. If you weren't with us last week, Matt is the worship director at our church, and he is incredible. He also is the director of visual and performing arts at the Mount Vernon School, but he has become a huge part of our Village family. You have seen him if you've watched any of our video, and we just talked about kind of him growing up evangelical, coming to understand his orientation. What do you do about the Christian side? How does that work? Getting invited by Alejandro to our church, and then the rest is history. We had a great conversation. I hope you'll watch it if you haven't seen it already. Now, I have a lot of other things I want to ask. Matt, thanks for being with us. Thanks for sitting for a longer session.
Hey, it's great to be here, Ray.
So, we love Alejandro, and Alejandro is I've never met anybody that is a connector better than your husband.
Truly.
He is also one of the finest Christians I have ever met in my life. So you two fall in love. Somehow y'all decide that you are going to get married, and your family was overjoyed. Is that how it happened?
Not quite. No.
Talk to us. Tell me.
So, we had a really cool relationship because we kind of took things slow in the beginning,
Well, you did have your head on his shoulder one of the first services at our church.
Yeah, we did meet, and I will be honest, I went on a quick 3-day cruise with two of my best friends, and I said, I might have found, the guy I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And they were like, you met him two days ago. But we started dating about a month after we met, and then he's an adventurer. I mean, I'd never been as many places with him. I mean, let alone on a weeknight, we might be going to the Atlanta Ferris wheel or to iFly or to a dinner party somewhere. It was all over the place, but also international travel.
Right.
We were going all over the world and trying things, and I was like, oh my gosh, I know I'm swept up with this guy emotionally, but is it just like all the stuff and all the places we're going? But it's what really, really attracted me to him was just what you said. He has this ability to, in such an authentic way, not only connect with people, but steward a relationship. I really struggle, to keep in contact with people and maintain the relationship. And he has somehow the ability to text and message and Facebook and Instagram and just stay connected to all these folks, which is part of what made our travel so exciting, because everywhere we went, he knew 10 people in that city or that country or that part of the world. And so we always had someone to connect with and people to talk to. And the conversations tended to revolve around this work in LGBT and church affinity. And the more I got to listen to him talk to other people, because it's one thing to hear someone's story. Typically, someone will tell you their story once, but you hear them tell their story to multiple other people multiple times. And it's almost like going back over the coloring page and shading it in more and more. And the more details I got, the more I realized how important his faith was to him.
Yeah.
But that he had no judgment of other people's faith or wherever they were on their journey. And that was so foreign to me because I was always a part of worlds where you had to prove, this is how much I know the Bible and this is how serious I am for the cause of Christ. And and the way really the currency you use to prove your Christianity was kind of trying to convert people all the time,
Right.
Getting them 1 inch closer, that kind of Mormon missionary style of oh yeah, I'm building a relationship with you, but my ultimate goal is to convert you to my brand, Christianity. And he never did that. He wanted to hear people's stories. He wanted to share his testimony. And wherever someone was on their faith journey, or if they had no faith, he was genuinely accepting of that and didn't have an agenda for other people, which was kind of the first example I saw, very serious example of somebody who just was truly accepting of where others were in their faith.
That's amazing. So the love story gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And are you aware of, on the home front up in Illinois, that this maybe is going to come to a head at some point where it's not going to be received well by your family?
Yeah, so I had come out to my family after I met Alejandro and just as I had started coming to the village. And they were very loving in the coming out moment. We love you. We want to make sure we love you. And my brothers iterated the same thing. But I kind of had this feeling in the back of my mind that and we'd had some conversations about marriage and it wasn't God's plan according to them. And so I knew this wasn't going to go exceptionally well. I did have some hope that maybe, the more time we gave it, the more they could warm up to the idea. The truth is, I couldn't even entertain the idea of being gay and Christian until I was 30.
Right, right.
And that was my story.
Right.
So the idea that they would warm up to this, in a matter of 2 or 3 or 4 years, maybe was a little crazy on my part, but we did tell them we got engaged, and we got engaged when we were in Italy. So I waited until we got home because even the night, sometimes you want to call your parents that night. And I had heard my parents' story of their engagement, and they went to, my grandmother's house that night. And there's kind of a funny story about my grandmother saying to my dad, "Oh, my baby," and running in the back room, and my mom going, "Oh, does she not like me?" When the truth was she was on the phone with all her friends telling them.
Right.
I knew that wasn't going to be our story, and that it was going to be more of the "Oh, my baby," and maybe not calling all our friends not excited. And so we got back to New York. It was my birthday. And I called them and they said, "Happy birthday." And I told them we're engaged. And very politely, the response was more like, "You must have such good memories. That must have been a really special moment for you." You mentioned we're from Chicago. We're very Midwestern, very kind, but not accepting. And this is what helps me to understand churches that say they're welcoming, but not affirming, because you can be kind and not truly affirming of who someone is. And that's kind of the way it was. And we had some conversations, and eventually there was a moment where we went to visit, and there was a conversation about, we're not going to be at the wedding, and always done in kindness and always done in a way that was really sweet. But nevertheless, it was hard going through planning for a wedding. You start to realize how many wedding traditions are built around the family. And I know you do a lot of weddings.
Right.
And, whether it's walking down the aisle, or whether it's the engagement party moment, or whether, the shower, or it's the getting ready backstage, in the waiting room. There's so much of the wedding experience fantasy in our head, or the script we have in our head that includes your family, that it was at moments really hard to do that without a family. But I also realized the beauty of an LGBT union and marriage is because it's not as traditional. I mean, I remember when marriage equality, it was approved a couple weeks after I moved to Atlanta. So there isn't this long history. You can kind of make it what you want it to be. So as someone who's creative, it was really fun to think even about the ceremony. What are the parts and pieces? Let's look at traditional wedding ceremonies and decide what makes sense for us and what needs to look a little bit different. We didn't have a wedding party because we were like, you know what? We don't need people to stand up there to prove that they're standing with us. Everyone who's in the audience has made a decision to stand with us. No one is there out of obligation. The people who don't want to be there aren't there. They've told us that. So we don't need a wedding party, because really the folks, that idea that there is a group of people who stand with you and support this, it's everybody in the whole room. So that was cool.
I've never seen a wedding ever like your wedding. It was... Did you guys ever put out a video about it? I don't even remember. Did
we have a video? I don't know if we've published it, but I think we need to share it at some point.
I've never seen anything like it. Gang, you have never seen a wedding like this wedding. And people came in from all around the country. Some of the premier LGBT leaders that are working with progressive churches and trying to help people understand affirming. And it was really cool to see them there. Kathy Baldock, who we just interviewed, had her on the last few weeks. What a dynamic person. and she was there, and Liz Dyer was there, and Sarah Cunningham was there, and
Cheryl Anderson,
Cheryl
Vines,
Anderson, Matthew Vines was there.
so many great people.
I've never seen, and you guys, you put together. It's the most memorable wedding I've ever been a part of. I was honored that I got to be the guy that got to stand up there with y'all, but it was so good.
Well, you made it so special. We've gotten so many comments about just your authenticity that show through to people who don't go to church, but you really resonated with them. And I think if nothing else, a lot of venues we looked at, it was you buy the package, right? You buy our food, you buy our flowers, you buy our lights, and we put it all together. And in 4 hours, we'll have the, I don't know, like a kit, almost like
Yours was a la carte all the way.
Oh gosh, everything. And it wasn't probably the most beautiful wedding anyone's ever been to, but it was our fingerprints were all over that.
Oh,
we made the centerpieces, we made the napkin rings, everything. And that's what was cool, is that the folks who were there, I mean, they're people we spend time with. They're people that we're connected to. It's great to have all those, folks we consider maybe famous people, but they're our friends, and they're people we've traveled to their houses. We've visited them. We've hiked in the mountains with Kathy. We had friends who we met on a cruise who live in the UK, and we just have always kept in contact. I mentioned Alejandro. We've been able to keep this connection, and they flew in from the UK. I mean, it helps that they work for an airline, so they could jump on a flight, but it was just a moment where you start to realize, I've been to a lot of weddings. I mean, as a piano player, I've played a lot of weddings.
Right.
And there's a lot of obligation that comes with weddings. And when there's no obligation, like I said, there's nobody that's there because they feel they have to be there. There's no parts of the ceremony because you feel like I've got to have that part of the ceremony.
You started with a blank. It's just like you created it all. And it was one of the most Christ-honoring weddings I've ever seen. And that's why I wish, I don't know if people are maybe come to this and this is way out for you. And I just wish I could get you to understand that the Spirit of Christ is so a part of who Matt is and who Alejandro is, and it just comes through, and it's just the most beautiful thing. And when some people, they can't get their minds around, but there's these verses, and if I understand these verses right, and it's like, the Bible says the letter of the law kills, but the Spirit is what brings life. And I'm telling you, it was one of the most life-giving, Jesus-honoring, Spirit-led things I've ever been a part of. And it's like, I just wish the world could see it because it was so good. And I hope if you're at that place and this is all new to you and it sounds like it's just stay with us. Just stay with us for a little while and get to know the Matthews of this world and see if the Spirit of Christ in you doesn't resonate with the Spirit of Christ in him, and see. It's a beautiful thing. I'm sorry to digress, but
it's something I never thought I would have necessarily. There was a point in life when I started to realize I was gay, and I just thought this isn't going to be a part of my journey. But what's amazing about Scripture, and when you can really accept who you are in your faith journey at a place like the Village, the Scriptures, and we would love to share any part of our ceremony, script, anything with anyone that it could help. But I would encourage people to really think about their own story. There was a moment where Alejandro's sister did a reading from Ruth. And she, all the children in his family are bilingual. They help me communicate with his parents a lot, and they come from Venezuela. And so there's a blend of countries there. There's a blend of languages there. And she read the words that your people will be my people. And that's a true statement, and it's a scripture that means a lot to us, but it even had a deeper meaning, because like saying your people will be my people, when you're bridging different cultures and all of these things, it was so meaningful. And that's what I really hope that folks can find, is because there was a long time when weddings were very triggering to me. And I know they're very triggering to a lot of people. Mother's Day, Father's Day, all these things that we celebrate that can be hard for folks. And I hope they can find a version of each of those things, each of those traditions, because when you're in the LGBT community, traditions can be hard if you're not on the inside of that tradition. but I hope they can find a way to either adapt or adopt or even reinvent in a way that has deep meaning for them, because there is something beautiful about things like the Bible and tradition. We don't want to throw them out. Some folks are like, throw it all out. And I think the beauty of a place like the Village, the beauty of, maturing in who you are as a person in your relationship with Christ is figuring out the marriage of those things. I love Bob Ross. I love watching him paint and blend colors together and realize that there's no black and white and this and that and this is all wrong and this is all good. The way you blend the pieces of your identity together are part of the best. I don't know. It's what makes life worth living.
That's beautiful. Now, you guys have just bought a house. Yes. How has that been?
It's a hard market to be buying a house in, but again, God really showed up in a cool way, because I just really wanted to we'd thought we were going to extend our lease for 6 months. We had to re-up in January, and we had faith. We just said, okay, we're going to do 6 months instead of 12. And by July 10th, we better have somewhere to go. And so in March, April, I was on Zillow, like you do. And it said, click here if you want to see this house today. And I guess Zillow on the back end connected us with some realtor named Donna. We love Donna. And she said, you guys want to go out? And we started looking at house after house after house after house. We sometimes saw 10 houses in a day. And within a month, we landed in this place, and we kind of had some things we were looking for. It wasn't real specific on the location, wasn't real specific on the type of house, but there were some things that we wanted to make sure we could entertain, have a space, an open space to entertain, or, just little things. Everybody has their things. And we walked through this house in about 30 seconds. We didn't say anything to each other. He was looking at me, I was looking at him, and he came in the kitchen and put his head on the counter. And the realtor goes, Donna says, what's wrong? And he goes, oh, I'm about to spend a lot of money because I think this is the house.
That's so good.
And without even saying anything, we both knew that was the place for us.
That is wonderful. So you've been in the house now a month or two?
It's been about 2 months. We moved in on Cinco de Mayo. Actually, I remember the day because Alejandro's family all showed up to help us move. And that's been a really cool journey of like them really growing.
Because that was out of their comfort zone, mom and dad. That was different, right?
We really didn't know if his family would show up to the wedding either. And that's not my story to tell, but as the son-in-law, seeing my, in-laws walk in during the ceremony and this kind of like joy and relief that was really, and they took pictures with us, and it was a really beautiful moment. And then, less than 6 months later, they're packing up the trucks and helping us move into our new apartment. Beautiful. We're cheersing on moving day. It just shows that everybody is on a different journey, and that God's timing is perfect.
You seem like, please tell me if you seem like you're not holding bitterness or anger, that you're trying to extend grace to family members that are not there yet.
Yeah.
But you're not letting it control you. You're not dominated by it, but you seem like you've set them free.
Yeah. I think I used to wear these bracelets, fully relied on God, frog.
Right.
And it was the I'm sold out to Christ sort of thing. But I think when you realize, maybe mom and dad aren't going to be there for everything. Maybe brothers aren't going to be there for everything. And you have to lean into your relationship with Christ, your relationship with others. You learn what fully relied on means. And it really means you need to rely on those folks who are the hands and feet of Christ in your life in that season. And so that has been really beautiful. I also realize we have so many supports in our lives, so many people who are bright lights, so many people who accept us fully and wonderfully and go above and beyond to show their support. My boss sent me a Happy Pride text on June 1st to say, Happy Pride Month. And I started to tear up. I never in my life thought I would have a boss, much less at the places I was working, send me a message like that. So really leaning into that and truly accepting. I think the peace of Christ is truly accepting and loving people no matter where they are. So yeah, I would say I have peace. I would say it's still a struggle. I'd say therapy is a beautiful thing. I'd say my village family is a beautiful thing. And those little victories also feel wonderful. I'm still talking with my family and we're working through what that looks like, what life looks like. So I have nothing bad to say about them, but I am aware that that they are in a different place I'm in. And I pray that they'll be able to hold on to their faith like I have and evolve in a really beautiful way, because I realize there's a lot of kids out there who don't even imagine if you're living with your family and they're not, accepting. Imagine relying on your family for your basic needs.
Yeah.
And now you're worried if they're not accepting. If anything, my story hasn't built resentment for my family. It's made me truly, deeply passionate about youth who are going through this. Because I can take care of myself. I have every resource and we have so much support in our lives. But if I was living in an unaffirming environment, in a rural environment, my story might look a lot different.
One of the things when Everybody Church, when that first became kind of a name that we used, we had in mind those people that were 200 miles from an affirming church. And we just were thinking about those teenagers that didn't have anybody, or those young adults, or I think we have people in their 70s, 80s, and they never had anybody. And to know that they could find online a family and could connect. And I wish we could go meet every one of them. I wish we could just take a trip and just go meet all of them. And I think about a world where you would go through life without Alejandro, or an Alejandro would go through life without you by your side. Jane and I tell people some of the greatest loving couples that we know are in the LGBT community, and it doesn't mean that there's not difficulties, and I'm sure there's we've seen breakups and divorces and all that in the LGBT world, but we put you guys up as just one of the models. If you could put in front of somebody and say, these are two young people that are they're living a good life. What's been the most rewarding thing about marriage to Alejandro?
I used to hear two stories about couples. One is that we're so similar. We're so alike. We like all the same things. And it's like I met my soulmate. It's almost like this idea we're the same person type of thing. And that's not our story. We're not the same person. And then I would hear other people say opposites attract. We're so different, but we somehow get along. And I wouldn't say we're opposites either, because our mutual love of Christ, our mutual love of music and languages and travel is really what connected us. But I have become a much better version of myself with him, and goals I had for myself for years that were unrealized. I had wanted to start getting my master's the minute I was out of undergrad. He's really the one that helped me, gave me the support.
So you're better. You're better. You feel like he brings out the best in you.
And he would say, when we have guests over, I might come home and, so-and-so's over. They've been here for 30 minutes. They don't have a drink in their hand. You didn't even get him a glass of water. and he would say, Matt's the hospitality one of the two of us. Right. So I truly think it's not so much about being opposites as much about making each other better.
Yeah, complementary in a way, yeah.
Yeah, we've really experienced that. I know I am a better person because of him.
Yeah, I feel that way about Jane. I feel like she has made me a better human being. Knowing her has just made me a better human being. And I see that with you guys, that you feel the same way. We love hanging out with y'all. We love it. So you love your job. You love what you're doing. You are still acting some. I saw you in a play last year in your underwear. I got to tell you, that was a little bit bizarre. Sitting by my wife, and it's like, I think Matt's standing there in his underwear. But it was an amazing production. I wish you would do more, because it was a great play. Do you still want to do more acting?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's a phrase I never thought I'd hear my pastor say. But,
I know.
I love it. No, for the longest time, it's amazing when you release something, how it can bloom in your life. when I was much more serious about pursuing the arts and, I was an arts director for a long time, opportunities came. But now that I'm actually in a role in like HR where I'm not necessarily in arts full time, it's been cool to see so many opportunities pop up. I call myself a gypsy for Jesus. I get to go around to all these churches and help out when they have a spring concert or they need help with this or that. A friend of mine, there was a theater in town that was struggling with cash flow in the summertime because it's the off season. And we said, let's do a one night only, kind of fundraiser. And my best friend Rachel came in. We put together that show in about 24 hours.
Blew my mind.
And sold out the venue that we had. So it is really cool. You mentioned kind of like an ease and a peace when you relax into who you are. And I'm not into all of, too much new age stuff, but there's something about that flow state when you're really where you should be and when you're really living, another buzzword, but your authentic truth. Right. When you're being you, a lot more beautiful things come your way. And it's been cool to have all these opportunities to, record and perform. And I hope more of that. But right now it's really just for fun.
So when I think about your hopes and dreams for the future, it's just for it to be a natural flow into those things that you have been doing thus far. Huh.
I've realized I have a friend named Nikki, and she always says life isn't linear. And she's got a really cool story about her non-linear trajectory of a career. I thought for so long, I knew that I was going to be this music teacher for an elementary school and then a middle school and then a high school, and that was going to be my career. And my life has taken so many interesting turns that I've really released it to God and said, every time I thought I knew, you knew something better, which sounds very Christian-y, but it really has been true. I'm more in the mindset now when you talk about the future of like what skills could get me ready for the next thing. When I went to go back and get my master's, I thought, I'm not going to get another teaching degree or another music degree. I really want to get a business degree because whether I'm in ministry or nonprofit or arts, those are skills that could help me. So right now I'm just kind of in the skill collecting business and we'll see what happens.
That's something. Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience as we wrap this up that you think would be a good way to end? Anything's on your mind as far as your journey of faith? Mm-hmm. Maybe something that would be encouraging for that little boy or little girl that's out there that maybe hasn't met their Alejandro and hasn't found a place like the Village.
If you feel yourself running too hard in one direction, look around and ask yourself why. There was a long time in my life when I was trying to achieve, especially in my career, pushing harder, working more, faster, and really running in this way. And I see a lot of LGBT people doing this where I can't reconcile that piece of my life. So I'm going to turn that off and I'm just going to focus on this. Life is full and colorful and beautiful, and your life should be able to be, you should be the same person in every room that you walk into. You shouldn't have to be one person here and one person there. And I was that for so long that I would just encourage folks. You can't see what you can't see, but you can notice when you're getting tired, when you're running so hard, or you are just mentally, emotionally exhausted. Take a second to just ask the question, what's missing? When something triggers you, makes you upset, or if you've turned off a piece of yourself and you said, I can never have that, or I can't be a Christian and be gay, or I can't be gay and a Christian. I've just seen so many people in my community throw out one piece of themselves, whether it was their faith and religion, or whether it was their sexuality, to pursue the other piece. And you really can have it all. Christ came to bring life and life to the full. And I just wish a full life for those watching, for those at the Village. And I hope that everyone can take a breath every once in a while in this hectic and chaotic world to ask the question, what am I avoiding or what am I running from? Because I learned a little too late. I wish I had learned a lot sooner that I don't have to choose one thing over the other.
I love that. thank you for joining us. Matt, thank you for being a part. This has been delightful. I hope if you don't know Matt, come to our church one Sunday. I'd love for you to get to meet him. And thank you for watching. We're going to be doing more of these interviews. This was a highlight for me, and I can't wait till we see you again. Thank you for being a part of our Village Online community.